expressing certain provisions of the open meeting law. This public meeting of the Town of Bolton Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom Video Communications, Inc. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. Some guidelines for participants. Please utilize the chat or raise hand function if you wish to address the board. Participants will remain on mute until they have been addressed by the board, and participants are required to display their first and last names. All of that said, by tradition, we will start with a roll call. Present members, I am Brian Barabee.
Paul Brandwold.
Sue Mitra.
Jim Garrity.
Sam Bosley.
Excellent. All right. First up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, 655 Main Street. I know since our last meeting, we had scheduled a site visit to get out there. I was not on that site visit. Would anybody who was on the site visit want to give us a quick rundown of what they saw out in the field?
Sure. Yeah, I went out with Lauren and we walked the site with the property owner, Scott. It looks like in the rear corner of the yard, which would be the northern side of the yard, it looks like there might be a stream going through kind of the corner of that yard. So we did notice that. We did measure off of that to where Scott wanted to put the fence, which was around 30 feet. Additionally, walking on that back part of the property, the grass appeared to be wet, very, very wet. Now, I'm not sure if that was the result. There was a lot of rain. And on the western side of the property, which is next to the town hall, there's that's conservation land, and it's a pretty large hill. And Scott did, and there was a lot of rain, and Scott did mention that there was a lot of runoff comes off of that particular hill and goes onto his property. So it was a little wet back there. Could have been because of the rain. Now, one of the other things we also discussed was that there's he has a fire pit back there. So if he were to move the fence closer to the fire pit, which is around 50 feet, so going from 30 feet to where he originally had the fence to 50 feet, that kind of gets you away from the wet grass, if you will. The grass was wet there per se. But again, we still have the 100-foot buffer for the wetlands and the adjacent property. And then really the question is that stream a perennial stream, which goes into the 225-foot requirement. I think regardless of whether it's 225 or 100, you're still in a buffer zone to an extent.
Okay. I was going to say I'm looking. I have Rebecca's notes from concerning this need for delineation to figure out exactly what if it is a stream and we're looking for stream setbacks, where are the banks, where does everything start? I not having been there, would that make sense to you to see more of a formal delineation of where everything actually stands?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. The stream, it was maybe a foot wide, maybe 2 feet, maybe. It's extremely small. So, and again, I'm not convinced that it's a stream per se. I think it could also be from runoff because of the particular time that we went out there. So I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm really not sure if that's a stream or not. But again, okay. It's a foot, maybe a foot wide, maybe 2 feet wide, no more than that. So I mean, it's extremely small. Yeah. As far as streams, brooks go. But it was running, it was certainly running.
And did you see marked out like the area to be fenced?
Yeah, we did see the area to
Like
be,
have a
fenced,
general
right? Yep,
idea of-
yep. Yeah, I think if he pulled it back and we get to at least
And-
50 feet, I think that would be more reasonable, if you will, in really getting away from any wet grass, and get you away from the resource areas.
All right. Other initial questions, comments, thoughts? I'm not seeing any. I'm going to ask for public comment in a minute, but Lauren, are you able to pull up or share your screen and kind of pull up the proposed plans as they are? I'm hoping, Jim, if we look at the plans, we could try to figure out a way in which we might be able to condition that where the footing where it would be.
Sure.
So Lauren, if you're able to try and find those and kind of share your screen, I'm gonna
Sure.
ask, is there anybody here from the public to comment on this tonight, this particular hearing? And I don't think I'm seeing anyone right now.
So here's the plan, in the sketched out area on the plot here that
Yep.
Scott had submitted. I can't rotate, sorry.
It's
Um,
okay.
but I do have site visit notes that have some photos of the property, if that helps get a better visualization, if you want me to pull that up.
Yeah, it might. It might. I'm trying to think how we would, to Jim's point, if we were trying to keep it 50 feet from the bank of the stream. Is that what you were saying, Jim? That as proposed, it's about 40 feet from the bank,
It's about 30 right now,
or from what appeared to be the bank?
right? Which is where
about
Lauren's
what?
cursor is.
Yeah,
It's about
It's
30
this back
feet.
corner.
Yeah, the current plan is about 30 feet. Whereas if you came off 50 feet, that would, so it's 20 more feet, but it buys you, you're out of the wet grass area, if you will.
Yeah. And the area that's proposed to be fenced right now, is that all basically existing lawn? I was gonna say, Lauren. Can
Yeah,
Yes.
it's all,
photos, I guess.
it's all lawn. Yeah, lawn goes all the way back to the property line, if you will, which is a rock
Yep.
wall.
Bank of stream.
And I think the fire pit would probably fall, would you say around here, Jim?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it would be inside of that, basically.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Back in the fence. All right. Is the applicant here tonight?
I believe so. Let's see. Yes, Scott Mackey.
Yes, I'm here. And I can
Okay, Scott.
clarify that the lawn has since dried out.
Okay.
I was out there mowing this past weekend and it is now dry. It wasn't as wet as when you came for the visit. So I think that is a lot of runoff. It's not like, I don't know, drainage or something coming out from that stream. Because like Jim said, the stream is probably about a foot wide and it runs underneath the rock walls on that corner. There's rock walls, old stacked rock walls, and it runs underneath both of those.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to think how the best way to proceed. I know from Rebecca's standpoint, the best bet is probably to have an actual delineation done to figure out exactly what that is, what it's classified as, and where it falls. Possibly the best way. I was trying to think if there was a way that we could say something along the lines of that, the back end of fence be, no closer than 50 feet to the stream observed during the site visit. But I don't think that that would actually kind of hold up. I'm trying to think if there's a way in which we could possibly write it to delineate it, but we really can't. Does that make sense? I'm trying to figure out the best way to proceed. Um, I, I think it might be to get a delineation done, to ask the applicant to actually get a wetland delineation, or even to mark out, what they think is stream bank in the field, and see if we'll agree with that. I'm trying to think if there's a different way I can do it. And I'm not really sure. I don't know if any other commission members have a thought. All right.
And I don't know if Lauren has the
Go ahead,
picture of the actual stream, but the problem is
Oh.
I don't know that there's like a stream bank. That's the hard part, because it's hard to
Right,
know, the way it was just running.
I can pull up the photos.
Yeah, that would be helpful too.
Yeah.
If it, depending on like who does the delineation, Scott, usually they'll determine bank by kind of soil conditions, flora, what's growing there. Certain things would be considered bank, certain things would be considered not. But they would know the best way to do that. Here we are. I see what you see by end of the rock wall.
So there's kind of two rock walls running perpendicular to each other. So the stream comes down and then around underneath here.
And for that picture, the water flow that you're seeing on the right is actually my neighbor's property.
Gotcha.
Because they have conduit, they have a little pond in the back, so they have a conduit, running their electrical and stuff. So it's the left side
Yep.
of the wall there.
Yeah, so this side here.
That's the runoff. That's the quote unquote stream. So that's why I said I don't know what's like a bank. It's hard to define that.
Yeah, right.
Because it's pretty much all surrounded by that rocky, there are
yeah.
boulders on the inside of the rock
Yeah.
wall, and then the rock wall itself, and then that's just the back, looking back towards the house from the back corner.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
area that would be fenced. I'm sorry to talk over you.
No, that's okay.
Right, that's the,
This flag
that's the
right
area you're
here.
looking at.
That's where I potentially could run it, and that's where I was saying, I'm willing to work with the town and figure out what we need to do. If we needed to come into the fire pit, where that existing fire pit was, that's about 50 feet, when we measured it, that I would, be fine with something like that.
So here's the fire pit area, and it was about 60 feet measured from the back corner by the stream.
And that was to the middle, that was like to the center point on the lower side
Yep.
of the and then that's why we were saying about 50-55 feet would be, just short of the fire pit in the back.
Yeah.
And here's looking toward the back corner over here, where that stream is running.
That helps. Yeah. All right.
Quick question for those who were on site. Was there any water observed just north of that fire pit?
No, I don't think
No.
so.
Scott,
No.
sorry.
Yeah, no,
It
there
was
wasn't any.
just wet lawn at
Yeah.
that point, because we had just had all those storms the week leading up to the visit. So the
Gotcha.
lawn was just very wet, but there's no running water or streams or anything that you can see. Like there was no flowing runoff. I guess that's probably the best, if that's what your question was.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, do you know what kind of footings you're going to be using for the fence, Scott?
We haven't
Dig a
we
hole, fill with
haven't-
cement, or is it a
I'm hoping we don't have to do cement, but I haven't reached out to any fence companies yet because I didn't want to start getting quotes and seeing what was feasible and not feasible until I knew whether I could actually even put something up or where we would be able to put it. My preference would be not to use concrete footings. I did one at a previous home and we didn't use concrete footings, and I always prefer that because if you ever want to take it out, you don't have to cut off the fence or anything like that, or you can pull them up.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking,
Is Brian breaking up or is it me?
something that
I think
thought
it's
it was me
Brian.
too.
that can be
think
removed
it's
if
Brian.
necessary.
Hey,
Is
Brian?
preferable.
Hey, Brian? Brian?
Yes.
I think you have a little bit of a bad internet connection, so we kind of lost a little bit of what you said. Could you back up just a little bit? That's okay?
Sure. No, that's perfectly fine because it seems like I keep freezing. Hopefully you guys. All right, hold on.
Yeah, you're frozen right now.
Yeah, I thought it was me.
Hi. I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, this is much better.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was me. I'm sorry. I was cutting in and out there. I was asking about the footings, and I'm not sure that I fully heard the response.
I was just saying, I'm hoping that we don't need to use concrete footings. I'm hoping that they can just set them. I want to be as easy in case I need to take it out or move it or something like that. Any future homeowners, if we do decide to sell, don't have to worry about trying to cut off and leaving the concrete in the ground or something like that. So I'm hoping we don't have to do that, but I haven't reached out to the actual fencing companies to discuss that yet because I was waiting to see what the town was going to allow or not allow us to be able to do.
All right. Sorry. Trying to figure the best way to proceed. So, in theory, and I'd like to hear what other commission members have to think about this. If it was something that we could condition, basically saying that the extent of the proposed fence be no closer than at least 50 feet from the stream as observed in the field, from the stream channel as observed during the site visit. I'm trying to think if people think that would be okay as far as wording goes, if that's something people would be comfortable with.
I think that would be fine.
Okay. And okay, and again, for the most part, we're dealing with existing lawn here, and there are
Right.
limitations to the lot. I think if that is delineated as stream, again, basically that whole lot is going to be in resource area. Okay. That said, footings, and again, this is a tough one for wording for me. I'd love to say a non-permanent footing, that the fence be placed upon non-permanent footings. Is that defined within itself? I mean, it's just about anything's non-permanent. You can, even if they do a cement footing, you can dig it up and remove it. Um, and again, I don't think they're going to overdo the cement there. It's going to be just a fence portion of yard. If we were to put in a condition that said that, that the footings for any fence would be of a non-permanent variety. I think we would be covered. I mean, it would give them plenty of options of what they could use. Hope I'm not freezing.
No, you're all set.
Hope I'm not.
No, you're
Okay,
okay.
good. All right. So does that make sense to members of the commission if we were to go ahead and approve something like this with those two conditions?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. And I'll ask one last time. Any members of the public here to comment on this particular hearing or want to make comment after hearing us discuss? Not seeing any. All right. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for the request for determination of applicability for 655 Main Street. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Paul,
I,
Sue,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren. I'm an aye as well. All right. Now I'm going to see if I can actually get this out. Gonna make a motion that we issue a -3 determination for the request for determination of applicability for 655 Main Street with the following conditions: that the proposed fence be no closer than at least 50 feet from the bank of the stream observed during the site visit, and photos of which were presented at this evening's meeting, and that any footings used for the fencing be of a non-permanent variety. Do I hear a second for issuing said determination?
second,
All those in favor, starting with Paul,
I,
Sue,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good luck with the project.
Thank you, committee.
All right. Have a good night, Scott. Next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss the notice of intent filed for 89 Spectacle Hill Road. Is the applicant or a rep for the applicant here this evening?
Yes.
Jack, do you? I know we received some revised plans. Do you want to kind of walk us through what was submitted?
Sure. Do I have screen sharing capabilities? Thank you. Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is Doug Story's property, 89 Speck Hill Road. We originally came in with a 1-bedroom ADU unit right in this area where my cursor's waving, with a new system for a 5-bedroom design. After some back and forth with Doug and getting some quotes on that, he decided to scrap the ADU and just go back to a 4-bedroom septic system upgrade. Currently has a septic tank in this red box location here out to a existing pit that's in failure. So he needs to get this done sooner than later. So what we've proposed is this tank, quite old, is to punch in the top, fill it with sand, connect the pipe from the house to the tank right through down to this clean out, and then make a 90-degree turn, come across the existing gravel driveway with a new 2,000-gallon 2-compartment tank to a Presby leach field system. So the fill and grading from before with the 1-bedroom ADU and a reserve area is much smaller now with just the straight 4-bedroom septic system upgrade. There's still some fill and grading, as you can see in this area. We do have a proposed retaining wall, which would be the big block retaining wall like we showed before, but it's just in this small area here, which is a lot shorter. I think it's 28 feet as opposed to when we went from this area all the way up to the side, which was probably about 65 feet long. So we've significantly reduced that. The other thing that we added to this, and I think we had it on the other plan, was that Doug is going to run a water service over to his workshop, and he's also going to put in a bathroom for him and his employee, and then that will get pumped up. It's basically it's a small grinder pump system that gets buried into the floor that will get pumped up to the leaching line and then go gravity into the septic tank before it goes back in. So the ADU is gone. This is just a straight septic system upgrade. The system was staked last week. So you'll see two different colors of trees here. The lighter green ones are the ones that are going to stay. The darker green ones, I was out there this morning, actually measured them, took pictures to where they are and the size of them based on the Bolton bylaw regulation. I think that's probably going to be one of Rebecca's comments coming up. So it looks like there's between the 3-inch and the 8-inch, there's 4 trees that will be coming down, and between the 9-inch and the 20-inch, there'll be 5 trees coming down. So do your formula, it ends up being 14 total trees. If I can just skip to, can everybody see this? Pictures? Or are you still on?
I'm still seeing, yeah, I'm still seeing the.
All right, hang on. Hang on for 1 second. Let me see if I can get back to my screen share. Can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got one stake here, one stake here. And if I zoom in, there's another stake here and another stake here. So these would be the trees that I have marked on the plan as to come down. There is a cluster back in here. It has 2 4-inch trees along with a 7-inch and a 12-inch tree. There's also a 14-inch tree back here. There's a 5-inch tree to my right. I don't know if I have a picture of it. There's a 5-inch tree over in this side here that you can't see. It's out of the screen. And then you have, this is a 9-inch tree. And then there's a 10-inch tree right in this area here. Those will obviously have to come down in order to get the new septic system in there. But what I wanted to show the commission was the overstory that's here now, and get some thoughts on replanting. So the system's going into the lower right here. Some of these trees are going to be coming out. We're looking north right now. You can see the sun. This was at about 7:30 this morning. The sun's coming up from the east on the right, and we'll be setting on the other side of this van. Is the commission adaptable to putting in like arborvitaes or other type of plants versus putting in trees? My feeling is that if we have all this overstory that's in here now, having some younger trees going in, they may not make it, so to speak, in the areas that we have to plant these.
Just wanted to jot that down. I guess the short answer is generally speaking, I would say we'll consider anything. You know, if an applicant came forward and say, you know, I know this is the expected mitigation. Here's why we can't do that in this location. This is what we are proposing instead. I would say we would absolutely consider that. I don't know if other commission members feel differently, and you know, I guess we would just have to see what's being proposed in like actual numbers and all of that and where exactly it is. But I don't see why we wouldn't consider it because I can imagine we would run into this on certain projects.
Okay, so just an idea, if you can see the plan view again here, right along the top of this wall, we're considering some arborvitaes, and then maybe even at the base of the slope having some more in here, as well as some other plantings. I have to talk to Doug more specifically on you know, what he'd be looking for, but arborvitaes was definitely the first one that came to mind. You know, they've aesthetically pleasing view to the eye as you're driving up and down the driveway. You know, we may be even able to push that wall back a couple of feet and get a few of those arborvitaes on the lower side of that wall to help block that wall. It's only 2 to 3 feet high, but still that it would be some visual barrier from that, and keep it more of a woodsy look. So I'm just afraid again that, you know, if we put in some smaller diameter tree, that it may not last as long as we think it would be because of the overstory that would be blocking sunlight and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure that the commission was amenable to it. The Board of Health is still
I
in
was
the
gonna say,
process.
at least amenable to.
You're-
I was going to say that we're at least amenable to other things being proposed. I mean, I completely take your point. I see that overstory. I'm not sure that a tree would thrive there or even be able to grow. But between this meeting and you know 2 days from now, I might hear differently from like and when I actually ask an expert, they might say no, that's perfectly fine. You could grow them here, there, and here. So I just want to be clear, like open to if you know alternate proposals, but I'm not saying oh yeah, you know, totally, you don't need to plant the trees, you know, come up with a different proposal. I'm just saying I would listen to it, and I'm hoping the rest of the commission would listen to it openly. But you know, I for me as a non-expert, I look at it and say, you're right. You know, that overstory would really kind of choke anything out. You know, it's too dense right there to put more trees in. Um, but there's also a chance that trees might go someplace else on the property. People use other corners of their property to mitigate, renaturalize something that's currently yard and plant trees there. So I just want to be clear about that we're open to alternate proposals if you say, hey, there's no way we can do these trees, but you know, doesn't mean that we won't still say, no, we'd prefer the trees and we think you can plant them here without a problem. Does that make sense, Jack?
It does make sense. If you've been by the property, this lot is a lot of woods and a lot of overstory around the whole complex, so to speak, compound, so to speak. Other
Yeah.
than, let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. Other than having a little bit of open space back along in here, this gravel driveway goes up and around to the back of the barn. This is all wooded at the top of this slope. There is a little bit of green space in here, which they maintain as a lawn, but they have gardens, raised beds up and through this area here. There is, oops, sorry. There is a tennis court up in this area, but this is all densely wooded up along this property line, and so isn't the front slope, which is probably a 3-to-1 slope along the front here, and then along the back, which is only about the back side of this house is only about 30 feet from the property line, which has a driveway, a long driveway that goes up to the house back. So that this parcel has a lot of trees on it as it is. So we're looking to do some sort
Okay.
of alternative type of plants versus, you know, having more trees there.
Okay. All right. I get, well, I was gonna say we'll probably want to schedule a site visit at some point. Because again, I take your point and it's something I would definitely consider, but I think I want to go out there and just take a look and kind of confirm
Yep.
all of that. But even before you get to that question though, like I guess the one that kind of stood out to me is why not just if well, first of all, is the current system you said it's in failure, it's failing, so it does need to be replaced. Why not just replace in that same footprint and then it's just not jurisdictional? You just pull it all out of our jurisdiction and just redo it in the same footprint of where it was originally. Because I
Because
guess number one is avoid the resource areas. It's the first thing we're charged with, and it seems like you have a good chance to do that.
Well, yeah, when you get to see the
I'm not-
site,
Go ahead.
you'll understand. I mean, we do have a groundwater table there that we have to deal with. That's why we have that fill and grading. So if you take that system that we're showing right now and put it on that other side, below that wall, between the gravel driveway and the wall, you're going to end up covering that whole driveway with fill. You're going to be raising that driveway, 3 or 4 feet with fill on top of that. So you're going to make that impassable to have that existing circular type driveway that they have there. I think a site walk will be better for the commission to look at that. It is sloped from that edge of the driveway up to where that wall is that runs behind the shed, and then it really jumps up, a 2-to-1 to maybe even a 1-to-1 slope up towards the top of that hill where that property line corner is. So I think a site
Okay.
walk is definitely the way to go, Brian, and then we can look at it out in the field and see what everybody thinks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just that was the first one that jumped out to me, and I'm like, there's got to be a reason here. All right. I guess that was it for like my initial questions, having looked at these plans. But I want to open it up to the commission. Other commission members have initial comments, questions, thoughts.
I had a question. So you're saying that you don't think that trees would grow in that spot where you want to put arborvitae? Why would the arborvitae do any better?
That's a good question. One that was recommended by or suggested by the client, Mr. Doug Story. So they grow pretty much in shade. They grow in sun. I just feel that trees that are competing against each other, of similar, like they're maples, and there's some ash trees that are out there. They're going to have a tough time competing with whatever's there. Where we have a different species out there that may have a different foothold in there and perform better.
Okay. Yeah, since it's going up a slope as it is, I would just recommend not arborvitae. Something with a better root structure would be better. Arborvitae generally have a very shallow root structure, so just my 2 cents.
Okay. Noted.
I've got a quick question while you've got the map up, and thank you, Jack, for pulling that up. I see that you've got a proposed Schedule 30 PVC pipe going across the driveway. Is the plan to just keep that as a Schedule 30, or is there a plan to, I don't know, throw DI around it in order to protect the pipe, or just to ensure that the pipe remains intact, given that that's a frequently used driveway?
Schedule 80
Oh,
PVC
sorry.
pipe, which is quite heavy duty, and that's just going to go. So if we got a 4-inch pipe, that's going to be a 6-inch pipe, or an 8-inch pipe that sleeves that 4-inch pipe, Sam. So
80 makes a lot more sense. I thought it read 30. Thanks, Jack.
you're welcome.
And then the other one was the proposed water service line. It sounds like that might run in conjunction with a wastewater line. Is that correct, or is it only potable water?
No, there's water going in, and then there's a force main ejector pump that will go out and pump into the clean out that's located on the other end of the uphill side of the sleeve area that will tie
Okay.
in. Yep.
And is that a 6-inch pipe, or what's the size of that?
The force main for the ejector pump,
Yep.
it's probably a 2-inch.
Okay, so it's a little guy.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional comments, questions? Seeing any? Anybody from the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Not seeing any. All right, so Jack, with your permission, we'll continue to our next hearing, get out there in the next 2 weeks and take a look. It
Yes.
looks like you already have the proposed septic area marked out. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Everything else seems like it'd be obvious in the field. Any commission members, anything else you'd like to see marked out in the field if we were to go out there? All right, not seeing any. All right. All right. In that case, I'm gonna make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 89 Spectacle Hill Road, DEP file number 112-0754 until our next public hearing, Tuesday, June 17th at 7:30 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Paul,
Aye.
Aye.
Sue, Jim,
I,
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll get out there soon, hopefully.
All right, yeah, just Lauren, just let me know when you guys are going out and we'll get out there.
Sure, I'll schedule it with you tomorrow.
Thank you.
That works for you. Yep.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Take care. All right, how are we on time? Perfect. All right, so next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss the notice of intent filed for Lot 2 Harvard Road, DEP file number 112-0755. All right, I know we have gotten we had continued this before we had a chance to go out on the site, and I know we had gotten some new plans in early this week. I have not really had a chance to go through them yet, but it looks like Brandon is here tonight. Brandon, do you want to walk us through those new plans at all?
Yes, Brandon Ducharme with David E. Ross. Bob Cohen's also on the call. I'll share my screen here if I can.
Please.
All right, so it's been a bit of a process here, but we've actually made significant strides with Kinder Morgan pertaining to the location of the gas pipeline easement. We talked about this at the last meeting, and what we've done is we've revised the plan to kind of show you what we talked about at the last meeting. Along Harbor Road here, we've got the driveway comes in and then traverses down the grade till it gets over where the pipeline is. And as you can remember from both site walks, as we walk this, essentially what Kinder Morgan has allowed us to do to try to accommodate the concerns of the commission is reduce the width of that easement from a 40-foot wide easement to a 20-foot wide easement. And in terms of the plan change, it's obviously relatively simple, but what that allowed us to do is, if you remember, as you stand up on Harvard Road, you can kind of see where the pipeline goes down as a cleared area. And with that reduced easement, it's kind of allowed us to skirt down along the gas pipeline within that cleared area, and kind of right along where the topography is a little bit higher. So it did two things. Number one, it got us further away from the wetland, but it also allowed us to eliminate the retaining wall. Before, when we were kind of running through this area here, the grade stepped down from the pipeline, and we obviously had a retaining wall on the downhill side. So relatively straightforward by moving it up slope and them allowing us to basically traverse down the edge of that gas line. We've been able to eliminate that retaining wall, tighten up the grading. There's just one small section here where we're just proposing, it's only about 3 feet high. So we're proposing a boulder type wall, which is more efficient and less work involved to install it. There was also concerns with having machinery in there to lay a block wall. So ultimately, what I think is it's got us a better design. It's got us further from the wetlands and kind of met the objectives of what the commission has asked us to do.
I appreciate it. And again, I kind of want to look through these. I don't know that we got the plans in time, so I do want a little bit more time with them. And to a certain extent, I'm trying to look for alternatives in that I appreciate how much you moved it over, but I still think we're coming into conflict with the whole 40-foot no touch or no disturb coming off those wetlands. And I will take a look again. I know Kinder Morgan is having a hard time not wanting you to cross their easement, and I know they recognized that it was only a 20-foot easement. It almost seems like if you come in from the other side of that easement to go across, we avoid the 40-foot no disturb completely. And I know that was a difficult one to do, and I'm not sure if it's something they would allow. I know they have their restrictions, Kinder Morgan does, but we have our restrictions too. Are their restrictions more important than our restrictions? I don't know. I'm having trouble with not seeing why we need to tow it that close, like why we can't respect the 40-foot and just cut across their easement. It's paved on the other side of the road, like literally directly across the street. Their easement's totally paved over. So perhaps if you guys were to do like a gravel driveway for the first, 40 feet until you cross their easement and then, pave from there on up or something like that, I think that Kinder Morgan would still be in a better position than they are directly across the street where their entire right of way has been paved over. And again, I appreciate how hard you work to try to get this shoved over as much as possible, but it's like, God, we just need to get another 5 feet over, but we can't because Kinder Morgan doesn't want us messing with their restrictions. I don't want them messing with our restrictions. That's kind of where I'm at, Brandon. And again, I want to look through the plans. I recognize how much you guys had to do to try to slide it over, but I'm really having trouble with that one where I think our 40-foot no disturb on new development should be respected. And I can't see why we can't just put the driveway over the already flat paved driveway looking piece of land that's right there. I know they need access, to their pipe possibly in the future, but if it was gravel for the first 30 feet or so, they could get that access far easier than they can across the road. I guess that's where I stand right now. And again, I'd like more time to read through these and kind of take a look at it. But I just keep getting hung up on that. It's so unbelievably close. Why don't we just move it over those final 5-10 feet? And I'm sorry, I don't want to rant and rave, but I guess that's where I came down to. I tried to look at these quickly today to get a good idea. And I'm just struggling with that one. But I'll open it up to other commission members. I appreciate you coming in tonight and kind of walking us through it. Go ahead.
And if I may, Brian, I'm not sure what
Please.
else. By sliding it over, I know there's a number of 40 feet. As you look at the plan, we're pretty much holding the balance of the 40 feet. There's one small area where we're towing into it, but then if you go just a little bit further, we're just outside of it. We're essentially along that 40-foot. Now, when you look at that 40-foot, what is it that you're looking to preserve? And what I mean by that is, by reducing the size of that easement, is we're essentially running the driveway down the pre-existing cleared area.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And it's just a tough game to play, Brandon. If we do this every time, well, why 40 feet? Why don't we do 38 feet for this one? Why don't we do 35 feet for this one?
I think there's provisions
keep
in
coming
your
back to
bylaw.
why doesn't Kinder Morgan just give you 5 feet of their easement? If they give you an extra 5 feet into their easement, we wouldn't have to give you 5 feet into the wetland. And again, towing it to that exact 40, is not ideal. It would be nice if it was 45 feet away. 40 is the minimum, and towing it right to that minimum so that we don't mess with Kinder Morgan's right of way. I'm struggling with that one. That's just where I'm at, and I want to open it up to other commission members. There might be other questions or thoughts. I do want to spend a little more time with the plans just to see if I can rationalize that better. And again, I appreciate everything you did, but I guess that's
I guess my issue is I
Well,
just need to know
I'm
where to
stuck.
take it from here.
Why are we towing it in there when we can just slide? Let me open it up to questions from the other commission members or comments.
I had one quick question. How wide is the driveway?
The driveway is 12 feet.
Thank you.
And
we're-
what material are you planning to use for the driveway?
We're proposing pavement, because to be honest, you know, if you talk about a driveway and that proximity to a wetland, you're number one, opening yourself up to erosion of that gravel driveway. And there's also routine maintenance that needs to happen on an annual basis with the gravel driveway. You know, at least with a paved driveway, you've got a secure surface up to a vegetated surface that you're going to have less of a risk of erosion.
Yeah.
You know, I need to know where to take it from here. You know, and again, Kinder Morgan has been open to your concerns. It's not a matter of, well, this is our line, you guys can't go in it, we don't care what they think. You know, I think it was a pretty good effort on their part. We didn't think we were going to get anywhere with that. But the fact that they reduced that to a 20-foot, you know, I saw as a pretty big positive here. They've already said they're not going to approve. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was gonna say, my understanding that it was supposed to be a 40-foot during construction and reduced to a 20-foot afterwards. So basically all they did was do something they should have done 20 years ago. So you don't get credit for that in my book.
Well, here's the
at
problem.
all. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's 20 feet they were supposed to give back. And now they're saying we didn't catch it 10 years ago. Now you can have it back. So they're not giving us 5 feet. They're just giving us what they should have given us 20 years ago.
Well, I
so
disagree
0
with that.
points on that. Can they just give us 5 feet? You know,
if I may, I disagree with that a little bit, because if you've worked with any utility
please.
company, is once they establish an easement, and if it's set as that, you know, they're not inclined to give back any land. You know, and they certainly weren't under an obligation to. You know, through that means of defining them, you know, they took that as an opportunity to be able to work with Mr. Cohen to get this through. Because essentially all we're trying to do is access upland portions of our property, which, as you read your bylaw, and when it talks about the 40-foot setback, you know, there's exemptions there for, obviously, travel through the 40-foot may be required in some situations in order to be able to access and develop property that is outside of the jurisdiction of the commission. So I understand, you know, in a perfect world, you know, we could traverse right over their easement up along the other side and come back through. I just, and my frustration here is we just need to be able to take this somewhere. And
yeah,
you know, I don't know if you're looking for them to not allow us based on the fact that there's a suitable alternative, you know, that they've already given concessions to the, you know, to the applicant in order to, you know, meet the extent of your bylaw to the best that they can. So, you know, that's where I'm at this point.
and understandable. Yeah. I'm just not sure. And again, we got the revised plans in, but we didn't get them in last Thursday. So again, I'd like the 2 weeks to actually take a look at them and just to kind of ask some other people about my concerns, what I'm thinking. I hear everything you're saying. I just keep getting stuck on that. And I think I can get by it. And again, this will give me a chance to read through everything. Are there other questions or comments from commission members right now, or anything else you're looking for?
Yeah, I have a quick question, and I'm just trying to understand the math here, right, Brendan? When it comes to 20 feet, 40 feet, you know, it's a relative number, right? I thought that they were going to come out and mark the center line of the pipe. Did they do that?
Yes. So
Okay.
what Kinder Morgan did was they came out, they marked the center line of the pipe, and they actually, if you drive by there, they marked what they were calling the easement. So what we did is we sent a survey crew out. We located the center of that pipe, and then that's how we've recreated the easement that's shown here on the revised plan.
Okay, so did they go 10 feet on each side of the center line of the pipe?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and then so you went obviously right up to that.
Yeah, and so it's twofold. You know, we're talking about a horizontal setback and staying out of the easement, but the other issue with this is obviously in a low area of the site, is they will not allow, in any case, us to be able to reduce or cut the grades in that proximity of the gas line itself, obviously providing more exposure to the pipeline. So what we've had to do is we've had to push that up against the easement and then regrade the driveway out to match those existing grades along the east.
Okay, thank you.
This is Bob Cohen speaking. One thing we were willing to do was some mitigation because we're not inside the 40 feet by a lot. Brandon, how many square feet do you think will be inside the 40 foot?
I'm not sure on the square footage, but really it's only in this small corner as we're coming around that we're maybe as much as 4 feet into it.
For how long?
Probably about, I would say 25 feet. So 4 times 25, 100 square feet, something like that.
100 square feet. So I'd be willing to put into restriction some of the land that's outside of the jurisdiction to keep it pristine. I don't know if everybody realizes that was developed by Bonnie Porter as a deer run back there. That's why it's an L-shaped lot. So you might force us to cut off the deer. I think you're better off with the mitigation of taking some of that land in the back and adding it so it can't be disturbed and the deer can get by.
So what Bob's talking about is, this is kind of a locus map showing. This is the driveway coming off, this is the gas easement, this is the house here in the back. There's a significant balance of land over in this flag area here, and he's talking about doing a conservation easement to preserve and maintain that piece of property there.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can see that. I appreciate you coming up with a solution like that. I guess what I would say is whatever you're possibly proposing for enhanced mitigation, could we get that in writing, basically something added in that's being proposed? So and again, we'll probably have to consider our next meeting. If you can get us to something the Thursday before our next meeting, we can look at it all. We can look at what the enhanced mitigation is and hopefully have an answer for you one way or another at next meeting.
Understandable. Is there any way we could get some feedback from the members about that as mitigation?
So didn't we find that there was a stream back there to begin with?
Correct, yeah.
So I don't know, it's already sort of, you wouldn't be able to build back there without some restrictions as it is. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, well, based on the existing geometry of the lot, there's no way to create an additional building lot here anyway. As you mentioned, a portion of that has a wetland and a stream in the back. So anything that would be done by this homeowner, if somebody wanted to put a barn out there, maybe, put some fields for animal, whatever they wanted to do, it would be, portions of that piece would be subject to review of the commission, but there's also portions of that property that are outside of the buffer zones. So either way, and as you mentioned, being a more sensitive part of the property with wetlands on it, it would probably be advantageous to protect it.
Other initial comments, questions? All right. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing none. All right. All right. So if it's all right, we're going to move it to our next meeting. I will read through. I will, again, I will, I don't know where other commission members will come down, but anything that you submit, I will take that into account. I realize the work you guys have done, and I will definitely have, me personally, will have an answer for you next time as to how I think we should proceed and whatnot. That all said, gonna ask that we make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 2 Harvard Road until our next public meeting, Tuesday, June 17th at 7:40 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Paul,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Okay.
you all.
Yeah, no, thank you. And again, thank you for submitting this. And anything about mitigation, the sooner you can get it to us, the better. And we will see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, have okay. Sorry. Next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss the notice of intent filed for 58 Main Street, DEP file number 112-0579. All right. Sorry, just look at my notes on this one. All right. This is another one which there was a site visit. I believe I think it was a couple weeks ago. I was not able to make that site visit. Is there anybody here that was on, any members of the commission that was on that site visit?
Yes, I was
Yep.
on the site visit. Anyone else? I think, yeah, so you were on the site visit too, yeah.
Do you guys want to give, or one of you want to give your initial thoughts?
So you want to go ahead and I'll follow up?
I mean, everything made sense on the site visit. Sorry, I'm just reading through some notes. Sorry, give me a second. If you want to go ahead, Jim, go ahead.
Sure, I'll try. It was a while ago. Yeah, so we basically walked around the parking lot, if you will, right? And we talked about the section at basically coming up the driveway on 117. There was some mitigation that needs to happen, so we walked through some of the trees, where the trees are, as we walked up that driveway. Additionally, they want to widen the driveway, so we talked about widening the driveway. I think there was a tree or a stump that's going to have to come out to widen the driveway. We walked around, there was a lot of fill, if you will, and cut down branches. On the driveway, they left them there purposely to show us what it was. I believe Rebecca was okay with removing those, so I think they were able to remove those, or Rebecca gave them permission to remove those because we could see them. And we walked through towards the back of the property, which is on Bolton Woods Way, on that particular road coming in that way there. There was some wetlands there. We talked a little bit about that, where the water was running off coming down Bolton Woods Way, where it would go, because there are some resource areas there. But there wasn't anything, I don't think there was anything significant, if you will. I think it was fairly minor kind of updates that they walked us through. Did I miss anything, Sue?
No, I think you got everything.
Lauren, sorry.
Yep.
Are you able to pull up the let's say the map,
The
the plans?
revised plan. Yep, we received new documents on the 20th. Let me just share my screen. So we have the revised plans. They also included the grass specs for the outdoor dog area too. So I'll pull up the plan here. I know one of the things that was noticed during, oop, where'd that go? 1 second. During the site visit, they included, there was a second opening that wasn't originally on the first plan. They've included that here. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
I was gonna say, is the applicant or the rep here tonight?
Yes, I'm from Dilson Roy here, Ryan Vickers. You guys are used to seeing Greg Roy, but he was unable to make it, so I'm stepping in and filling his shoes, which are tough shoes to fill, but I'll do my best here. And we also have Wayne on the call, who is part of JEC Mechanical. He's the applicant.
Okay. Thank you. So I was looking through Rebecca's site visit notes as well. She had a question. It was an interesting question about the curb cut onto Main Street and the need for widening that. It sounded like the listed need was basically to account for the flow of traffic. But looking at the revised plans, it looks like there are two fairly large openings off of, or large enough openings off Bolton Woods Way. So is there still a need for that curb cut?
Yeah, my
Or
understanding
the
is with the
expanding of that
flow-
curb cut towards Main Street?
Yeah, the flow of the trucks and the delivery, and Wade, if you want to weigh in here with the flow, is we talked about this with the planning board, is that they would be exiting out of that way where we're proposing the widening there. So the I think it's about a 4-foot slide out of pushing that pavement out. So that is intended for just truck exiting there. To remove the trucks with the other type of vehicle traffic coming in Bolton Woods Way.
Yes. Hi, this is Wayne Greenwood. Yes, Ryan, you're right. What we did on the special permit is we had applied if we could move to the left side of the drawing where Bolton Woods Way is. What we did was on the traffic plan, we had traffic coming in off of 117 and on that first entrance going into the Posh Pup location, his traffic flow would be that way and then exiting out onto 117 via the road that we propose to widen. Our trucks would also go up Bolton Woods Way and then enter through the opening further past the wetland right at the corner right there. And our trucking would come in and we would offload at our loading docks, and then we would also exit out that way, so our traffic flow would be consistent. And we did that in the special permit, basically trying to establish routes so that we wouldn't impede traffic coming from the residential area at the top of Bolton Woods Way. So that's what really was the driving factor about cleaning up this this relatively narrow space and widening the path.
Let me open it to commission members. Any comments, questions, or thoughts based on what we've heard and or seen? I'm not seeing any right now.
Hey, Brian, I do have a quick question. I was driving
go
across
ahead,
the
please.
site today, and it appears that there's a new vinyl fence up on the left-hand side of the building. Is that represented on the maps?
Yes, I can point to that. We do have a construction detail for that vinyl fence, and it is indicated right next to, if you zoom in next to the smaller building, you'll see the limits of that fence there. If that's the fence that you're referring to, that is.
Well, I think that was on the right-hand side. It looked like there was something on the left-hand side of the building.
Yes, you're correct. There is something on the left-hand side of the building as you're facing with your back to 117. But as I understood it, that fencing in that area was not within any of the buffer zones in that area. When I spoke to Rebecca, we were outside the area of any impact to anything.
The reason for my question, Wayne, and thank you so much for answering it, is
Mhm.
I was just trying to get a better understanding of if that's where the proposed fencing is going to be for the Posh Pup, if that had adjusted at all, or if that is still remaining on the right-hand side of that facility.
It is still remaining on the right-hand side. So Scott Michelle, who's also has joined us from the Posh Pup, to continue and provide his outdoor space, had proposed, had requested fencing on, as we're looking at this plan on the left-hand side, that is into the buffer area, and that's where Sue and Jim, we had walked with Rebecca, and that's where we had walked and saw that paved area. So to answer your question, at the end of the day, he would like to have outdoor space on both sides to meet the needs. And Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to jump in if I'm saying something,
Thank you,
if I'm
Wayne.
misspeaking.
No, so as far as my understanding was that I only had to go in front of the board for the stuff that was in the buffer zone. So it's an addition to the vinyl fencing that we already started. We just didn't start that yet until we got approval from the conservation.
Yeah, and no, that makes total sense. I'm just trying to make sure that there's no stormwater drains or anything like that that are within that location.
There is not.
Just because I didn't see those annotated on the plans.
That's correct. There are none. There are some stormwater drains that are shown on the plans, but other than that, the guys from Dillis and Roy had come out and staked everything and done their field research to locate those drains.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think that there was talk, not last meeting, but the meeting before, about some of the chemistries that you guys are going to be using inside of that location, just because, I love dogs, but they're kind of gross. And I say that as a proud dog owner. But, I'm just trying to understand what type of chemistries you're going to be using within that buffer zone to make sure that there's no impact to the resource area.
Sure. So we to maintain the turf, the proposed turf on that side, and on the other side of the property, we use a pet safe, eco-friendly cleaner that we spray down every night, and during the day, as there are dogs in the facility, we hose it down, and we pick up the dog feces immediately upon as we see it, and as the dogs are going to the restroom outside, just for bacteria for the dogs as well.
Okay. And all debris and material such as fecal matter will be stored in a closed with a lid container. Is that correct?
Yes, and then that is removed nightly or as full and into a dumpster that we are going to have be picked up weekly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could, Brian, one thing, if I could just clarify.
Please.
When we were speaking about the exit from the path going out to Route 117, we don't propose any additional, yes, right there. We do not propose an additional curb cut per se. No change to the outlet. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I just wanted to clarify, that's all.
No, thank you. Right. Other comments, questions, thoughts?
I had one quick question. When we were on the site visit, in that area that is the turf material, that area, we saw a downspout pipe. Did we figure out what we're gonna do with that?
Sue, I think what we said was what Rebecca had stated is we have to be careful not to deflect it on this plan either west or north, and that we could simply turn it and maybe put it into a rock area or a rain area.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what, when we do the cleanup in that space, that's what we would propose, is just to do that and simply put a rock area to kind of catch that, as Rebecca had stated.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments, questions? Right. Anybody from the public here tonight to with a comment or a question for this particular hearing? Seeing none. All right. I was gonna say, I noticed you did provide in the new plans tree removal. I see the plans on the ID, the amount of trees. Sorry, I'm just looking at the screen.
Yeah, no problem.
Questions. All right. It looks like you answered most of the questions we had, or all the questions we had. Commission members, comfortable with it as proposed? Again, that was my one question, was just the widening within that area, but I think they explained why that could happen. Rebecca had mentioned, possibly to mitigate for that by trying to close one of the 3 curb cuts that we found on the other side instead of 2. But I can understand with traffic flow, the way they're trying to run it, that may not be as useful. But just curious, are the commission members comfortable with the plans as they stand? Other conditions they would like to see? Anything we're missing that that was asked and just not answered yet? Not seeing any. Okay. People generally comfortable if I were to close the hearing tonight? I may say that we should probably vote on it at next meeting, because I do want to give Rebecca and Lauren a chance to type up the final order of conditions. And then we can basically just vote to approve that. We end up putting in a lot of boilerplate stuff. Some of the things that may not be on these that are just kind of the normal things we end up putting on our orders. So if people are comfortable, and again, I'm open to doing this differently, I think I would propose that we would close the hearing tonight. Maybe, and sorry, Ryan, maybe not take action on it tonight, which would give us the 2 weeks to draft the full order of conditions, and then when we come back next time, basically vote for the order. Unless something happened between now and then. But judging from commission members' comments, questions, people seem to be comfortable with it as stands.
Brian, if
Okay.
I could,
In
I'm
that
sorry.
case,
This is Wayne.
Go ahead, please.
If I could, and I
No, you're fine.
just to speak on Scott's behalf, I am comfortable with all of that. There's nothing here that is pressing, or nothing that can't wait until those conditions are drawn. The only thing I would say to that is, I know that as Scott is preparing to get his business underway and open it, that fenced area, is there a way to get any approvals or any thoughts about his fencing area and the turf area, so that he could begin to order materials and do that? Because Scott, I believe you told me it has up to a 3 to 4 week lead item, and you're looking to be operational in July. So I'm just concerned about pinching Scott in that particular area.
Gotcha.
Correct, Wayne. Yes. So like I have
and
water materials. They're out like I would say 8 weeks for turf material, just because it's the summer. So I kind of just want to get up and running as soon as possible.
I understand. It's a tough one. I cannot say anything concretely, because we're going to have to vote on it as a commission.
Okay.
When it comes to ordering materials, I would say that it seems like the plans that, as currently submitted, that the commission is very much comfortable with. Nobody had any outstanding issues. My guess is usually when that's the case, that they would then move forward at our next meeting, where they basically just get approved. And you would be fine from there out. So I would, if I were you, I'd be comfortable ordering materials, but I cannot promise anything. Does that make sense?
For sure. My only concern is, as well as we have to prep the ground and stuff like that and clear out that area. So 2 weeks out, we've been waiting for a long time for this. So I'm just I know you're saying that it's
Yeah.
a good chance, but to wait another week to close this out. I mean, another 2 weeks to close this out is kind of tough on my end.
I know, and I'm sorry. And usually, with anything this size, especially when we're dealing with multiple lots and stuff like that, we we usually want a chance to write up the conditions and not try to approve them with additional conditions. In other words, for us to say, all right, we approve what was submitted, but also we want to add in this, and also we want to add in that, and also, a lot of it's just boilerplate, normal stuff we add in. It just becomes unwieldy to try to do at a meeting tonight. So we would close the hearing tonight, which means there's no further comment. There's nothing else that needs to be submitted. And it basically would just give us a chance to write up those orders so we can vote on it at the next meeting. It can be frustrating, but I think it's the fastest we could possibly do it. I hate to say, does that make sense? But it's kind of where we stand with this, if that makes sense.
Brian, would we get would we be able to see those conditions in advance of the 2 week, just so maybe Scott and I could review them and make a decision or make an educated guess on where we going based on the provisions or the conditions?
Yeah. I don't want to speak for Lauren or Rebecca, but I was going to say, Lauren, if we draft an order of conditions, in the past, have we generally shared that draft with the applicant to say this is the drafted order?
Not in my experience, because typically it's something that needs to go, I believe, in a public hearing first beforehand. I also did want to add too that typically part of the order of conditions, it mentions that a pre-construction site visit is required before work can begin, just to check the erosion controls and everything too. So that's usually just something to note, part of the order as well, that a pre-construction site visit would need to be scheduled before that work could also begin. In terms of getting some of those conditions to you ahead of time, that's something I would have to speak with Rebecca about. In my experience, I haven't done that. I can't say yes or no on whether she'd be open to sharing that, though. So I would need to follow up with you on that.
Okay, and as far as the pre-construction site visit, is that something that would happen between now and the next meeting, or would that happen after the conditions and the vote?
That would be after the vote. So normally the process of how it works is normally once the commission votes, they have 21 days to sign the order with their hard signatures. Sometimes it's sooner than those 21 days, but legally we have 21 days to get that out. And then once the signatures are collected and it's actually issued with DEP and issued to the applicant, then we could schedule a pre-construction site visit after that's done.
Okay.
So I hate to say that's kind of where it leaves us, but it's kind of where we're at. I don't think we could cobble it together tonight at this meeting, and I'd be nervous that we would miss something. Not uncommon. So we'll, again, unless I hear differently from other commission members, we'll probably close tonight and not take action on it until our next meeting, unfortunately. Other commission members comfortable with that, understand that, see a different path? I'm open to, other suggestions. Not saying any. All right. In that case, I want to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 58 Main Street, DEP file number 112-0579. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Paul?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you. And Wayne, regardless, I will follow up with you once I speak with Rebecca about, giving the conditions ahead of time before the next meeting. I'll let you know either way.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone. All right. So request for a certificate of compliance for 38 Long Hill Road. Speaking with Rebecca, looking at her notes, it looks like she did have a chance to go out. She's comfortable that the work was completed. There were some ongoing conditions that she recommended. And if I may, I think they're in your packets, but I'm going to try to read off. I believe it was ongoing condition. The areas noted as mitigation areas not be maintained as landscape beds. These mitigation areas are part of the main reason why the project was able to be permitted due to the alterations within the aura, or the upland adjacent upland resource area. These areas are not to be turned to lawn or heavily managed landscape beds. Rather, per the plans, areas allowed to naturalize and provide mitigation for alterations to the adjacent upland resource area as stated within the order of conditions. Do commission members understand that, generally speaking, that we would be possibly issuing a certificate of completion with those ongoing conditions? Comments, approve, disapprove? Shoot, am I frozen?
It froze up a little bit, but I think we got you.
Okay. So, any additional comments, questions, or thoughts on issuing that CEO a certificate of compliance with those ongoing conditions? Everybody seems comfortable with that. All right. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing none. All right. I'm going to call for a roll call. Let's see if I can read this out again. I'm going to call for a roll compliance for 38 Long Hill Road, DEP file number 112-0687 with the following ongoing conditions. That areas noted as mitigation areas are not to be maintained as landscape beds. These mitigation areas are part of the main reason why the project was able to be permitted due to the alterations within the adjacent upland resource area. These areas are not to be turned to lawn or heavily managed landscape beds. Rather, per the plans, areas allowed to naturalize, provide mitigation, naturalize and or provide mitigation for alterations to the adjacent upland resource area as stated within the order of conditions. All those in favor of issuing the certificate of compliance with those ongoing conditions, please say aye, starting with Paul.
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well. All right. So next up on the agenda, I believe that we had, it was a continuation of our discussion on the potential vote to recommend to the select board to ban the use of second generation anticoagulant rodenticides or SCARs, SCARs on municipal property. I think last time, we had looked at the letter. It's in your packets again as to a possible recommendation. It's based off what some of the other townships did. And last time we basically left the discussion to let everybody kind of read through that, familiarize themselves a little bit more, but also so we could talk to DPW and make sure, this is something that was workable for them, not basically to blindside them with this. Rebecca did reach out to DPW and they did respond basically saying that they had no issues with the banning of SGARs, that there were alternatives available and that they were definitely workable. So that said, well, let me open up to commission members. I think I'm at a point comfortable that we recommend to the select board that they no longer use it, that we know that we ban it for use on our municipal areas. Other members have different thoughts, comments, questions.
Brian, did we talk to the school committee?
No, I did not, at least I haven't seen anything. Lauren, I'm not sure if you've heard anything, but I haven't seen anything directly from the school committee.
I have not heard anything on that.
Okay.
It's a really good point, Sam. People think we should get a pause to reach out to them and try to get their comments before moving forward with any recommendations?
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right. Okay. And it's a good point. They shouldn't be blindsided either, too. I'm sure they have, I'm hoping they have alternate plans in place, but that would be, that's a really good idea. Other commission members have thoughts, questions, comments? All right, seeing none. So Lauren, if possible, could you, if you talk to Rebecca tomorrow, could you just let her know that what we discussed, that we'd kind of like to, similar to Randy, reach out to the school committee, see if they have any major objections. And again, just to kind of let them know what's being recommended before they hear about it after the fact.
Yep. And while we're talking about it, are there any other groups that you can think of that we may need to reach out to? Or I think DPW might cover the majority of the public buildings, but yeah, that was a good suggestion though.
The only other one that I can think of is maybe historical.
Okay.
It's a good question. If they're maintaining historical properties. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that DPW maintains the overwhelming majority of the rest of the properties. I don't know about any of I think that it's all municipally owned. I just don't know if it's at just the outside or if they maintain the inside as well. So just clarification on that would be useful.
Okay.
Because like, example, does the fire department maintain the inside of the building and the DPW maintain the outside of the building?
That's a good question.
If the fire department maintains the inside of the building, then I would think that we would need to talk to the police chief and the fire chief as well.
Okay.
But I don't know the answer to that.
I can find out.
Thank you, Lauren.
Those are good points though.
Or if there's like a flyer that we can like ask the town manager or whatever, because I think that they meet with all of the personnel just so that
I
they're
can
aware.
send an email too. I can reach out to DPW, find out your question if they're maintaining inside and outside, and depending on what they say, I can shoot an email to the police chief, fire chief, whoever we need to reach out to that way.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have an email for like department heads, all the different department heads.
Yeah.
Just to throw it out to everyone. But I think you get the point of making sure we get it around and trying to hit all the possibly interested parties.
Okay.
All right. All right. So next on the agenda, I had no real updates on the enforcement orders, other than they were moving, some more slowly than others, towards compliance. Or in the case of Century Mill Estates, there was just no update. Included in our packet were the draft minutes for our May 20th, 2025 meeting. Have people had a chance to read through those minutes? If so, any edits, corrections, or changes? If not, does anybody need more time to read through those minutes or would like more time to read through those minutes? Seeing no comment, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the minutes for our May 20th, 2025 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for minutes?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Paul,
Abstain.
Sue,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Abstain.
and Lauren. I'm an I as well, or I'm an I. Okay. The next. Sorry. All right. So next up, we had discussion and possible vote on the maintenance for Bower Springs and Butternut maintenance mowing. We did put out a request for we did post the project. Henderson Stryker was the only person that actually applied. I don't know if that is the right word. For the actual job, we have used Henderson Stryker for many years in the past. They are more than just land maintenance. They really do a good job. They do understand basically conservation restrictions. They work on a lot of conservation properties. They've done Butternut and Bowers for us for years now. And I think Rebecca was looking for a basically a vote saying that possibly to a vote to consider awarding the contract for FY26 to Henderson Stryker for the mowing and maintenance of Bower Springs and Butternut. People comfortable with awarding said contract to Henderson Stryker? People need more information. Other comments, questions?
My only question is, do we know how much it cost last year, and does these amounts fit into our budget?
I was going to say, Lauren, I don't know if you have it in front of us for what we paid last year to them. I do remember, I believe they said it was going up this year. We do budget for this maintenance. The question has come up when we go before planning or advisory, whichever one sets the budget. Advisory.
I think it's advisory.
When we've gone
Advisory,
before them.
yeah.
Thank you. When we've gone before them, they have rightfully questioned, is this something that DPW could be doing? And it's just not something they're equipped to do now, time-wise, personnel-wise. In some of the cases, like with Butternut, you're mowing right up to the stream. And there's certain conditions for how you want to leave that stream bank, how close to get, how far you should mow down. Again, Henderson's fairly well known for being good at these things. Doesn't mean that there aren't other alternatives. So basically what we had heard in the past is it's not something that we can simply pass off to DPW. It's something that we can maybe look at in the future, but they would really have to plan and budget for as well. So we did kind of put it out to bid this year.
Yeah, I support it. I was just curious if we had it covered. I assume it did.
Yeah, and to answer your question, I don't have access to our budget spreadsheet right now, so I don't have the numbers right in front of me to give those to you.
All right. It's an excellent question, Paul, and we should take a look. And I was just say, Lauren, maybe if you can think to email us if you have a chance to pull them up tomorrow,
Sure.
On what we spent on Henderson last year, what the proposed is this year. Because again, just for us to stay on top of it, Paul, because they're going to come up every year,
Right.
Or at least maintenance for these sites is going to come up every year, and it's really something that we should be tracking to see, what we spent last year. Do we have it covered this year? Because I think they went up a little. I think it was last year. Maybe they had gone up. So they had kept it kind of steady for a few years, and then they finally had to make a jump. I want to say last year. But I don't think they're going to get cheaper in future years.
Nope. Everything goes up.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see if others actually would bid on the services in future years too. All right. So all of that said, I'd like to call for a roll call vote for us to award the contract for FY26 maintenance mowing of Butternut and Bowers Springs to Henderson Stryker. All those in favor, please say aye, starting with Paul.
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I think next up we had a discussion slated for Fawn Hill Conservation Area. Rebecca had added this in here because apparently there has been some ongoing violations within the area of people doing some work on the trails to basically unauthorized. Let's just, sorry as I stumble. Lauren, could you pull up the proposed sign or
Sure.
the image of the proposed sign that Rebecca had sent around? Sorry.
Yep. Before I do that, I will show you the map of the area where the unauthorized work is happening. So it's these highlighted areas. So they've, I guess, created new pathways or new trails that should not be there or have not been authorized. So those are the 3 locations. We do have a sign, not that one. So this sign has been authorized in the past by the commission, basically saying that they're revegetating because the alterations have not been authorized. What Rebecca is proposing is to add the highlighted portion on these signs as well. That says, any new or continued alteration of trails without prior written authorization shall result in banning specific user groups from the Vaughan Hill Conservation property as a whole. And just to note, there are no user groups that are currently banned from the property, but it's just something that for the commission to discuss and vote on.
I was going to say, if I may, I think one of the reasons is I think she noticed that the disturbances to the trail were from a specific type of user group. I think in this case it was mountain bikers that were trying to change things just to enhance their own experience. And while it's great that we use that mountain bikers use our trail, it's definitely one of the approved purposes for them. I think Rebecca had thought adding something like this might just help if they're not amenable to actually listening to the sign and actually following the rules, and they want to keep pushing it. We just want to let them know we might get to the point where we say, look, we're not going to allow X anymore mountain bikes or something like that on these trails. Is
Right,
why
and
she's proposing actually putting that on the sign. Go ahead.
Yes, and I was going to say, I just wanted to clarify I wasn't saying that the vote tonight was to ban any specific user groups. That's not the intention here. The vote is just to, add this portion on the signs that we currently have.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. Are there any signs up today and we want to replace them, or this is posting new signs that doesn't exist?
I believe
these would be new. These are temporary signs, and we've used them. I think, well, the one Lauren pulled up originally, the ones we've used in the past, and actually, Rebecca is empowered to put those up wherever necessary. So it's not something that necessarily comes before us, but they are meant to be temporary.
So I was just
wanted this to come before us because
I get it, but I was just wondering, shouldn't we have signs like this permanently, at least maybe at the entrance, like at the Moen property where I walk in, there's a big big display of maps and kind of rules and regulation as I thought. I mean, this is, to me, it's so obvious that you should make a trail, but for some people, maybe it isn't, you know? So maybe you need to just kind of remind them that you are privileged to walk on these trails, but don't walk outside them.
Yeah, and you know, for some people too, especially with the revegetation in progress, I do a lot of hiking, so it's not uncommon to see these along a trail. And most people,
Yeah.
like I think myself included, are very respectful when they say, "Oh, wait, don't go down this trail. They're trying to regrow it. You know, they want us to go to the left or to the right."
Okay, got it. So this is going to be
But
where,
your point,
yeah, but so for these signs, it's going to be where they've disturbed it and they're putting it up. Okay,
Correct.
got it.
correct. But to your larger point, it would be, and I think we have some of the things on some of the information boards, but on a lot of the information kiosks, you know, it might not hurt for us just to start posting that,
Yeah.
like, do not cut new trails. I think that's obvious.
I
but,
think, yeah. Next time I walk there, I'm going to check what's actually posted.
Yeah, it's not a
please
bad
do.
idea.
Yeah, that's a really good.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to put up a sign saying, you know, don't cut your own trail or don't go off trail, because there are some conservation areas not in Bolton but like in neighboring towns where they don't really care if you go off trail. So, you know, it's probably not a bad idea to have it posted here in town.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising how many people just kind of like go off trail and just simply don't care.
Okay, so sorry I hijacked that. What
No.
are we voting on?
No, it's a good discussion. This is basically it would be the authorizing the posting of the proposed sign in the Vaughan Hill Conservation Area in areas as determined by the town's conservation agent, which I'm going to now try to say officially, if that makes sense. I mean, are people comfortable with that? All right. In that case, I'm going to call for a roll call vote for us to authorize the posting of the proposed signs that were presented at this evening's meeting in the Vaughan Hill Conservation Area, in locations determined as necessary by the town's conservation agent or land use administrative assistant. All those in favor, please say aye, starting with Paul.
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well. All right. I think next on our agenda, we had the Forest Legacy Program. No real updates on that. It is still moving forward to the best of my knowledge. Our trail stewardship authorized projects are still ongoing with the exception of Rattlesnake, which is now complete. So they finished all of the proposed items in the order pertaining to Rattlesnake. And thank you to Trail Committee and everyone who worked on that. It is deeply appreciated. As a reminder, our Learn to Fish clinic, co-hosted by Mass Wildlife, is July 3rd, 2025 at Bower Springs. Yeah, our volunteer land steward position still available. And we still have one seat available on the Conservation Commission. Lauren, those were all the updates I have. Did I miss anything?
That's all I have too. So I think we are all set.
Oh, no, I actually had one more. Sorry. Very important one. Excuse me. Our next meeting will be our last meeting of this fiscal year. So July will start a new fiscal year. That's generally when we elect new officers. So at our next meeting, we'll be calling for nominations for chair and vice chair. I always want to say co-chair, vice chair, chair and vice chair for the Conservation Commission. If anybody is interested, please, you can keep it to yourself and nominate yourself if you want, but if you want to reach out to either Rebecca, Lauren, myself, other people would be happy to nominate you. If you are interested in maybe doing one of those roles, but not sure what more it might entail, again, Lauren, Rebecca would be happy to walk you through those. But just wanted to give everybody plenty of warning. Think about it for next time. We will be calling for nominations. And generally I say, if you skip that meeting, I will nominate you. So just remember that.
Oh, that makes me scared
So
because
that is all I had on my list.
all right. Makes me scared because I'm not going to make the next meeting. So
Congratulations, Paul.
Yeah. You get surprised with that. Okay. Well, I was going to say, Paul, knowing you won't be at our next meeting, if you have any thoughts, or you tell, you want to reach out to Rebecca and say, I'd love it if somebody would nominate Sue for chair, like, please. And that way, make sure one of us will definitely put it forward.
Okay. All right.
All right. That is all I had. Do commission members have any new business or any other things they would like to comment on at this point in time?
Did we have anything
Hang on.
further?
Go ahead, Sue.
Sorry, did we have anything further on 30 North Road?
Possibly. I may have missed that one.
Oh, there was
all right. Yeah. So that they are moving towards compliance. So they did hire a wetland scientist, Matt Morrow, whom I know has done other things in town. Did confirm with Rebecca that he had been contracted for the work.
I
and that
believe
we should be anticipating an NOI in the future. Go ahead.
I was going to say he hasn't been contracted yet, but the property owner has been in touch with Matt Morrow. So we're anticipating that he will be contracted, and they will be submitting the notice of intent as soon as that happens.
Excellent.
Okay. Other questions, comments, or general trivia? Seeing none. All right. In that case, I would like to make a motion that we hereby adjourn the Tuesday, June 6th, 2025 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Paul.
Aye.
Sue.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you all.
right.
See you in 2 weeks, if not at a site visit before that.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.